Hello, friends. It's the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, if you're in the northern hemisphere. And I've always been one to mark these sort of important geological days. I don't know if it's because my grandfather was a geographer, if that sort of planted it into my consciousness early, or if it's my natural feeling that humans are just one part of something way bigger, and the comfort that I find when I remember that people are not the only thing that are of importance. And I am not all put together because I have been out in the really intense heat because I've been sick for over a week, and the weeds in my garden really needed attention. They were encroaching upon the plants that I encourage to grow, and I had to give everybody their proper place. But this isn't a video about gardening. I'm here today to talk about something so difficult for me, which is failure and disappointment. Almost my entire life, I have been quite stoic and kept my disappointments to myself and waited until I could frame everything with nice words and maybe skip over the ugly cry and all that. But I was talking with my coach several days ago, actually on Tuesday, when my cold had morphed into a sinus infection, which is something that hasn't happened in a really long time. And it felt rather symbolic after she said what she said. I described how I'd been feeling, my tendency to skip over disappointment, how messy and embarrassing. And she said, you know, colds are like an all-day cry. I was bowled over, blown away. I sort of love those terms. And I've spent several days metabolizing that while I fought back that sinus infection. And if you listen, I don't sound perfect, but I can breathe again, and I'm beyond grateful. It's like a miracle. If you ever need help dealing with a sinus infection, I'm really good at it now. Anyway, failure, disappointment. How do I explain? The women's retreat this fall was going to happen. I had my minimum. Maria and I were starting to feel like it's really going to happen now. Oh, good, we can start formalizing our plans and getting all the people involved together. And then 12 hours before the deadline to receive the payment from a person who promised me she was in, she canceled. And that is completely her prerogative. I'm not angry about that. In fact, I'd rather that she did that than pay and decide to come and then turn around and not come. This isn't about her at all. I like her a lot, and I admire her honesty and her ability to be very upfront with me and not hide. And then I had to call the people who had committed and the other people who told me that they wanted to commit but later, because they just couldn't do it by this deadline several months in advance. I had to call them all. Let me tell you. I sat down and had a a good think. I had an ugly cry. And I told myself what I tell myself when I have to do really hard things, which is I have to lean into what I believe is right. What are my ethics? What code do I live by? And when things are hard, that's what I've got. So I did it, and the feedback was beautiful. And actually, the women just want to postpone to spring. And others have already told me they want to come in the spring, and so now I can be excited about the spring. So that's that story, whatever. What I'm really talking about is this understanding that failure is somehow like embarrassing and dirty, and something that I can't let anybody see. And I had a moment, I have to explain, about 6 or 7 months ago. I'm a big yoga practitioner, and we were on our mats on a Saturday morning, our little group that always meets on Saturdays, and a lovely young woman who's really good at doing back bends from standing. So she's standing up and she goes backwards. It's incredibly brave. She's very strong, and she's done this many times. And that day, she toppled. She missed. And without missing a beat, our amazing teacher giggled and said, "I am so glad you fell." And before anybody could have a response, including the young lady who fell, she just snatched away any of our like impulse to be like, "Oh no," and her impulse to be like, "I'm so embarrassed." And she took us right to the place where an error is a teacher, and it's also funny. And a few minutes later, we were in a pose where we folded forward, and my face was down by my knees, and I had this epiphany that I had spent my entire life trying to get it right. Everything. Trying to be perfect. And it wasn't because I wanted to be seen as perfect. It was because I could not bear being exposed. The vulnerability, the criticism that I anticipated. And from that moment until literally this week, I have had these thoughts. But as often happens, my thoughts take a while to seep into my feelings, and my feelings take a while to marry with my thoughts. And this week, after working for so long to pull together a beautiful group of women, I was so disappointed. I was so sad. I was sick. I felt embarrassed. All the mean people in my head started yammering. You know what they say. Who do you think you are? Why would you think that you could do something like that? Are you even qualified? Of course I'm qualified. I've been coaching people since before 2000. That's a whole other conversation. It's not that. Those voices are liars, but they're so strong and they're so habituated. They see that opening and they just, and they are really trying to keep me safe. They're trying to save me. And the ones you have in your head are trying to save you. So, anyway, I could talk all day. I'm not gonna. I have learned, while I'm learning to get to allow my emotional self and my thinking self to come together maybe a little more efficiently, I am also learning to listen to the still voice inside me. I have always written poems. The poems always come. I don't have much control. But what I'm starting to notice is that my favorite ones are often quite raw, and I don't want to edit them, even when the language is a little awkward, a little strange. But I think it's because those voices that come from wherever they come from, that's another discussion too. Those voices are more true. And I like to think of them as sort of like spirit guides or angels, or maybe my more internal self who doesn't like to obey any rules and is happy to speak English in as clumsy a way as she wants. That I should let that voice be. So yesterday a poem came to me for the solstice, and I'd like to close this with this poem, because I literally went outside and obeyed that voice. And after being really sick for about 10 days, I feel great. Sweaty, but great. So here's the poem that came. I want to show it to you because I wrote it out. I know it's backwards, but scribbly, scribbly. Solstice has a sacredness to it. In our world, this day of most light and its many hours urges, you must use it, do more. I posit rather, rest into your body. Absorb to the bone sun's nearest flares. Seek on your knees the cool damp below leafy shelter. Dive sleek as you are in deep water. Then slip your dripping body onto the flat rock amongst fairy lily pads to watch the breath move your belly, your heartbeat knocking insistent as moonrise against your fragile ribs. So, admitting that I failed feels good. The voice inside my head that was being mean to me has quieted. And I am able now, in a very emotional way, to accept and trust the universe when it comes to timing. Wishing you a lovely Saturday. See you soon.